are talking about your first book today, which is
Mother, Murder, and Mayhem, and I write under the name of CC Rose.
Okay.
And so
we're gonna flip to a page randomly to see what the universe wants us to talk about.
Okay.
And you're okay with that?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then in with these books, there's 190 cases of.
In each book?
No,
or just
I mean
all of them?
all of 8 of them. There's 190 murder cases, but I've gotten more since I put these books together, and so 190 plus cases. But some of the stories that I've heard on YouTube, that's like minor compared to this. Some of the stories where they would have like 1,000 rituals a month or something like that. You know, just outrageous stuff.
Yeah.
So let's see.
So this is the first book, and so this is going to be from what age to what age?
This one is. Oh, I have changed it, but let's see. So the chapters are set up by age. The first chapters are short and get longer as I get older and remember more. So I think this was 3 to 6 years old because I changed it and I didn't order another book, but
yeah, that sounds right.
Yeah, something like that. Because of the last one was so thick, so I changed it to get more in this one, and probably need to order some more. So it's like it is now. So, but so the story we picked was the dog bite, and I had a phobia. I have had a phobia for big dogs my whole life, and so I always told everybody I have I'm afraid of dogs because I got bit in the face by a dog, and so it ends up it wasn't the dog that bit me. My mother had clawed me in the face, and so this is the whole story about that, and left little scars from her fingers, and so and then so she made up a story that I was bitten by a dog, and then I was afraid of dogs, and it never even happened. And so, but she would make up different stories all the time about, you know, what happened, and so at the end of each memory, I say when and how I got the memory, the lessons, the affirmation, a quote, and statistics. So I got this memory at 59. And had to adjust my mind on how I got the scars. All this time I thought it was a dog. My friend Lisa came over with her Pomeranian dog with fur like my mother described the collie to have. And in one of the stories she said it was a collie that got hit by a car, and then I went over to it in the street and it bit me in the face. And so when I was touching her Pomeranian with the same kind of fur that my mom described, it was white and reddish brown. As I was getting Gizmo, as I was petting Gizmo, I started remembering something about the dog bite story and started thinking that I wasn't sure if it was true or not. And then that's when I go, you know, write or type out something, and then this particular story came to me. So under the lessons, what I learned from this is that my mind is very powerful to create a phobia for dogs when I never got bitten. The challenge of this is finding out that the few faint scars under my nose are from my mother. The gift in this is Diane, and that's my older sister, helped by comforting me when I needed it. The way I felt I had power as a child was to talk about the situation with my mother, even though I knew she was lying. The way I felt empowered as an adult was to know the truth. And so then it goes to the affirmation, I am, and I say I am beautiful because of the fact that I felt like, you know, with the scars I might not have been. So I am beautiful, I am treated well, I have boundaries, I am strong, I am told the truth, I know the truth. And the quote is, dogs never bite me, just humans. And that was by Marilyn Monroe. And so the statistics is, of children that are abused per year, 80.9% is by the parent. So.
Wow.
So that was that particular story. So I don't know what you want to do about that.
Well, we got a little time. We're only at 5 minutes, so that was pretty. So that was good. So if you want to find, let's do another random one. Here, let me see this.
Did you ever see the pictures in the back?
Oh, okay. And these are.
One is my grandparents.
And that's at your mom. So Mother and Diane, 1949. And then these guys on the other side are Diane, Rick, and Dave, 1953. And then Rick, 1954. Huh.
We didn't have a whole lot of pictures, so that's about all we had.
Really?
Yeah. And when you look at my mother, you don't think, oh, she
Not at all.
did all that stuff. That's why she got away with it. And then even with my grandparents, they don't look like they were doing all that stuff. And then when you see this picture of my brother and sisters, they don't look like they're being abused. So,
Let's see them.
you know, like,
Oh, yeah.
you know, these little guys.
Yeah, okay, so that's
Rick, that's my older brother, and that's Rick.
all three of you here.
No, I wasn't born yet.
Oh, okay.
So this is my brother Dave and my sister Diane and my brother Rick and Rick, and then Dave. He had red hair. I mean, right now it's gray hair, but you know.
He's old.
Yeah, but my brother Rick died already, and then my sister Diane died, and of course everybody else. And this is my father, and so he doesn't look like someone that would do that kind of stuff either.
Mother at Miami Beach, 1958.
Yep. And she doesn't look like what she was doing on the beach.
That's amazing. Yeah, they both look like really nice people.
Yep.
Hard to believe.
Yeah.
Wow.
And then, you know, this, let's see if there's any more. Oh, yeah. So the only one of me that I even found was, and my sister Diane took the pictures. My mother wasn't taking the pictures.
The baby kid crying?
No, I'm not the baby. That's my younger sister, but I'm the one in front.
Oh, on the very front. And who's the baby crying?
That's my sister, my younger sister.
Okay.
And
No, total, how many?
5, including myself. But like you know, they don't look like you wouldn't see them and say, you know, oh my gosh, I'm afraid of them. You know.
Well, that makes all the sense in the world is as to why they didn't get caught.
Yeah, and you know, like some of those people that you see that get arrested. I mean, they look, you know, pretty scary.
Yeah.
They didn't look scary.
Not at all. Let's try it again. Let's do the roulette. Let's do the story roulette.
Oh no. And if it's just random, then it would have to go to like wherever that's the
start. Okay,
yeah.
so this is where it started. I'm just gonna. So the one paragraph I'm gonna say. I went in the kitchen door and Diane was sitting on the chair in the kitchen, her elbows on the table and her head in her hands, crying. I was scared of what might have happened. I looked on the floor where Emily was killed and nothing was there. I went out in the entryway to look in the living room to see if she was where the other little girl was killed, and no one was there. I went back to Diane and stuttered, Girl? She pointed toward the living room. I had just looked there, but I didn't go in all the way, so I went further into the living room very slowly and quietly. I saw Mother sitting on the couch, crocheting a white baby blanket. I was going to ask her where the girl was, but I ran back to Diane. Wow, I might have to keep going. Let's see what's happening here.
Well, my mother used to always, when she had killed a little girl, she would go and crochet on her white blanket, and I'm assuming that's what her grandmother did.
Yeah, wow. So I pulled Diane's hands off her face. What happened? She pointed to the living room again. Her. She did it again. I popped my eyes. Diane cried, that girl, she looked like me. She looked like me. I started crying also. Where? She pointed to the swamp. Where do you think?
That's where she used to bury him, out in the swamp and behind our house.
Oh, wow.
So that one is the story, you know, of not the first one, but it's like, let's see if it goes, I don't know where it starts.
The start of this one here, you can.
Let's see. Okay, so the start of this one. Okay, so this is the little girl. My sister Diane had red hair, and this little girl had auburn hair, and this is case number 7. And so there, you know, obviously 6 other little girls that my mother had already killed by this point, and she has a certain routine that she does the same thing each time with these particular little girls. I mean, 2 of them were different, but most of them were the same. And
Did
so
you ever see what she did to the girls?
yeah,
What was it?
she would stab them.
Really?
Yeah. So
Wow.
yeah, that was her thing, was a knife. And then, you know, one of them she smothered, and that was because the little girl looked like her, and she couldn't stab her, so she smothered her.
Wow.
And then she was, you know, crying and screaming after each one, reacting, and then saying, "Do you know how hard it is to kill someone that looks like you?" Like, you know, it's like she wanted me to have compassion, which she taught me a lot of compassion, because I had compassion for her as she's killing people. You know, I had to be her therapist. You know, she told me pretty much everything, and, you know, her emotions, and only she was the one allowed to have emotions. You know, I couldn't have emotions.
Right.
And so she was always, everything was all about her, you know. So if she killed someone, she's crying, but not for them. She's crying for herself, either remembering what happened to her when she was a kid, or upset that, you know, I don't know really. Sometimes she would tell me, hard to say because it was always something different, but it's like never about the fact that she had guilt. So I don't think she had much guilt, and if she did, it was very short-lived, and then she would not go back. But it was always to blame, like, well, they shouldn't have been at the store at that time. You know, it's like, or then she would say things like, well, God told me to do it, and that's when I would say, well, you don't even believe in God, and then she would say, well, maybe it was the devil that made me do it, or each time it was something different, why, or, you know, what happened. Let's see, you know, her excuse of why she did it. And so in the back of that particular memory, with the different things after the memory, so when and how, it's like I got this memory triggered at 55 when my redheaded friend was talking about, oh crap, forgot about that, talking about her gallbladder being removed, and pointed out where she had a scar on her belly. And so, you know, here she's like, you know, showing me her scar, and you know, a long time ago they made a big scar. Now I don't think it's this big, but and then I was just like, right, you know, it started triggering me on the memory of the little girl, because she had red hair. My sister had red hair, and the little girl in the memory had red hair. So it was like, it just like something like that just kind of hits me and triggers me, and then if I don't get the memory, then I'm stuck in it. You know, I'm either acting it out in my mind, like if I was crying, or, you know, if I was hiding in the closet, you know, luckily I don't have any closets big enough to hide in, but, you know, if I was hiding in the bathroom or something, I a long time ago, like when I first started getting them, I would have to sit in the bathroom, and if, you know, and try to get the memory in. But now I usually just write it out, and it comes. But
as you're writing.
Yeah, it comes out through the writing, and then as I'm clearing it, I type it, and then I edit it, and so it's like a lot of clearing that way too. But it's just kind of random how things happen that all of a sudden I've just got it triggered, and it's right there. And if it's like out in public, then I have to, you know, wait until I can go home and write it down, and then maybe I don't have time to write it down, and so then I'm upset for several days until I can write it down. And so a lot of people say, well, do you have to get everything, all the memories? And it's like, no. But if I'm stuck in this emotional thing, I've got to write it out. So that's one way I've been able to, do some healing, and to be able to get it and look at it and then let it go and into the past. If I don't know what it is, then I can't heal from it. I could heal from it, but it's like, it's better this way to know what happened and then let it go than to just like kind of like I know I've got something there, but I'm not going to look at it.
Keep it suppressed.
Yeah.
Instead of identifying, this is like the greatest lesson really.
Yeah.
For all of us, is to identify our feelings, feel the feeling, and then let it move on or pass through.
Right.
But it'll never do it by itself. We have to let it come to the surface, identify it, acknowledge it at least.
Yeah.
So it can pass through.
Yeah, and then the other thing that my therapist has been telling me is that to recognize and hear my inner child. And so some people think that they don't have to get it, but then the inner child isn't even heard or listened to, and sometimes the inner child starts acting out. And so, who knows how it's going to act out. And so
inner child, then that's kind of a weird way of saying just a bunch of suppressed feelings and emotions and events that happen to us, that will build up and act out. Inner child sounds a little too woo-woo, for people or whatever. But I mean, the thing is, it's just that it's just from being suppressed our whole entire lives. And that's what I was talking about with my ego a little bit, before. Is that's what just the patterns and the ways I've learned how to deal with things. My ego's helped me do that by suppressing, or now that I'm a lot better, I can bring those back up to the surface and heal from them because I can handle it now. I can look them in the eye, identify them, write them down, things like that, feel them, and then let it pass through.
Yeah. And so if it's not the inner child, then it would just be, hearing yourself what happened to you. If you don't want to hear it, like you're ignoring that part of you that wants to tell you the story of what happened. Right. So, and then... So
you can move on. I mean, it's doing it for a reason. It can't just be doing it to torture you. Like, we think our egos, if we really identified with what's going on in our minds, it just seems like we're being tortured by it. But there's a reason, for all that's going on up there, that's talking to us or whatever, just trying to get us to acknowledge, or I guess protect us until we're ready, but...
Right. And I always, I was like, well, who is setting this up for me? Because everything seems to be set up to get this memory. Yeah. And I would get the same thing, like if I didn't get the memory, I would get it 3 or 4 times. And it was some weird random thing. And so it's like, I started learning that I had to, like, if there was 3 times something happened, I was like, this has got to be a memory. This is too weird. And so then I would go in and muscle test. How old am I?
Like what would happen?
Well, say random, like a fire engine went by, and I never walk down the street and a fire engine goes by me. I mean, very rarely. And this is like a really quiet town. And then, this next day, same thing, fire engine. Next day, same thing, fire engine. It's like, this is way too weird. Yeah. The fire engine going by. But the weird part is that I was emotionally upset by it. And so it's like, what is going on? I'm really triggered by this sound and the fire engine and everything. And it was a memory when I was like 4 or 5. So, big, long memory, but it was like, it just, got me triggered. And so before it was like 3 times that something would happen, and then I would say, I need to write something down. And, then I say, I muscle test, how old was I? It's like, 4 years old, 5 years old. Yeah. Who was I with? That kind of thing. And then see if the memory starts to come. And then if it doesn't come, then I would use my left hand. Since I'm right-handed, I would use my left hand and see if I can get it that way. And that I learned a long time ago from, going to therapy years and years ago. Mm-hmm. And then recently, I was with Eva, and she was doing some therapy with me, and she says, why don't you draw it out, stick figure. And then right when she said that, I saw it, so she's been helping me work through some issues, memories, things like that. And so it was really weird that just by saying, why don't you draw it, then I was able to see it. And so different ways of being.
What did you see though?
I'm trying to think. Oh yeah. We were working for like an hour on, I don't know what the issue was of what came up of why. What, I don't remember what the trigger was.
Yeah.
But it was, trying to think of, anyway, I don't know. I can't remember.
What was, how long do you think you've been in therapy? I mean.
Well, when I was younger, like I started, when I was 35, I started some alternative therapy. And
what brought you to that point? Did it
just a lot of memories coming up. I had 3 kids by that point, and then I was married, and it's like I'm just sitting there getting all kinds of stuff and crying, and so then went to this alternative therapist, and she did like a body clearing. So she went from my toes all the way up to my head, and took I don't know, like a week or something, and then is there any memories in your toes? Is there any memories in your ankles? And then just went through the body and the organs and everything, and released whatever came up. And she just sat and listened, and she wrote stuff down, and so we just released it that way. And then did that for a while, and then for some reason I felt like I needed to go to. I remember I was seeing a therapist first, and then I was seeing the alternative, because the therapist said that she didn't think that the alternative one was good for me because it was going to be too overwhelming. Mm-hmm. But she actually cleared more in a week than sitting there and talking about stuff. And we hadn't even gotten to anything. The therapist, when you just talk, we hadn't even gotten to anything. And so with the alternative way, it's much easier. And so then I stopped seeing the therapist. That's what it was. And then, so since I was 35, off and on, just different therapists. Mm-hmm. Some of them fall asleep when I was talking, and so.
So what are the you're like up until fast forward until today? After so many years of therapy, what are your days like these days?
Recently, like the last 12 years, I've been nonstop. Since I've moved here, it's just been nonstop, getting memories and writing them down. But it's slowed down recently, and so I'm still going to therapist, and I'm still getting memories, and so I can't really plan much, because I don't know if I'm going to have to work on a memory, or if I sometimes I don't even want to go out anymore because I don't know if something's going to get triggered. Yeah. So, but I was doing really well for a while, and everything kind of slowed down, and I didn't have a whole lot coming up. But then the worst of it has been coming up recently, and so that's been hard. So it's like a lifetime process of getting all these things out. What kind of
work do you do outside of art and stuff like that?
That's it.
Yeah.
I'm just at home, and then my big thing is that I try to get outside and take a walk. Mm-hmm. But it's not like it's not like I'm not getting any better. It's still so much coming out. Yeah. And so I just have to let my body rest. Yeah. And getting memories and resting and taking a walk and maybe going to a sound healing, yeah. Or doing a drum circle or something like that, and yeah, that's about it. But I every time I think, now that this memory is gone, I'm gonna feel so much better. But all it did was make more room for the next one to come up. Oh yeah, so room, yeah. And so it's been a real rough process. But I don't know what else to do. Yeah. If you suppress it, if I suppress it, I get sick. If I get it, I get exhausted. So I'm just kind of in the process of just clearing it out. In the process of processing. Yeah, that's about all I can do. And then, I paint in between, and that gets me out of it, and kind of healing a certain part, whatever wants to be painted. And if it's like a little girl thing, or, I'm just kind of working on my inner child, or, my inner little girl.
Helping others probably works.
Oh, right. And doing the healing work. Yeah. Stuff. And I don't ask anybody to come over, but randomly people show up and they want to do healing work. And so we just trade usually, and we do some healing work.
What other books? So the next book we'll talk about is what? What's it called?
It is.
And this is book number 2 of 8.
Right. So this one is called Rape, Pillage, or Murder. And again, that was something that we said, what it is. What's it going to be today, Ma? Rape, pillage, or murder. And that was my sister Diane. But then I started saying it too. So anyway, so that's the second book. And it's not funny, but, it's just was something silly that we used to say to
get through the day.
Yeah.
Yeah, everything else was probably pretty heavy. I can imagine.
Yeah. And then when my mother would get dressed, start and fix herself up, then that's when my sister would get, say that kind of thing. What are you up to today?
What was it? So murder, mayhem,
right?
Or rape,
pillage, or murder.
Wow.
Right. And it's like rape meaning, she would set us up for prostitution.
Wow.
Yeah, and sometimes, it would just be bait, and sometimes, she would, have it backed out, and so I would ask her why do sometimes you let them do that to us, and sometimes you don't? And she said, I just do whatever God tells me to do, and so it's, she felt something, like I said, sometimes she felt guided by God, and then sometimes she said she was guided by the devil, and then sometimes she said she was the Grim Reaper. And so when I was older and more sarcastic, I would say, so the Grim Reaper is sad today? Are you sad for what you did, or are you sad and I'd just be sad, and I'd have to do therapy on the Grim Reaper. So,
wow.
But and she was pretty, and she had blonde hair, and she always did it in like a little bubble. And she dyed her hair blonde. That picture that you saw, she had natural darker hair, but she dyed her hair blonde, and she had a bubble hairstyle like the 60s, and she would rat it, and so she looked like a pretty lady.
Oh yeah.
So. But she was a black widow. So,
Black Widow.
But black widows actually eat their mate, and so she never did kill my father, and so she just killed everybody else.